is smoking a habit or is it an addiction? Well, when people find out that you're a hypnotist, you'll probably agree with us that one of the most common questions you'll get is, can you help me quit smoking?
Usually when people come to a hypnotist to quit smoking, it's because they've tried all kinds of other ways to quit, but haven't succeeded yet. And they often think they have an addiction, and they're hoping someone's going to wave a magic wand, the hypnotist will fix it for them.
Okay, so first, let's address this. I'm Chris Thompson. Mike Mandel over here. We run MikeMandelHypnosis.com. Now, let's talk about this. So people, they often believe that cigarettes or nicotine, which is the active drug, is an addiction. They have an addiction to this drug, right?
Right, you hear that a lot. And there's people even claim to, they just know. They've heard it's harder to stop than giving up heroin. Smoking's the hardest. This is nonsensical.
It's an amazing thing to hear that people actually, they just know, like you said, that, well, giving up cigarettes is harder to give up than heroin. Oh, really? Well, Mike, have you ever heard of a detox center for cigarettes?
No, I have not. I don't know anyone who's ever gone to one. Well, they do have them for, alcohol and opioids and other hard drugs, though.
Right. Now, what's Dabney Ewan has a really interesting quote here. Let's talk about that.
He was a professor of psychiatry and surgery and a great hypnotist. And Dabney Ewan said, why do people say that cigarettes help them relax? He said nicotine is the second strongest stimulant known only after adrenaline.
Ooh, which is also called epinephrine, I think, if it's made in a lab. But, so adrenaline, epinephrine, these are freaking stimulants that your body produces. It's a hormone, right? And yet nicotine is essentially just after that in terms of its stimulation capabilities, yet it relaxes you, which obviously means that's an anchored response. That's something you believe to have happen in your body. So if you smoke, it's associated with chilling out or relaxing or whatever.
Taking a break,
itself is actually harming your ability to relax, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's just something to keep in mind. Now,
there's a lot of myths. I mean, there's a lot of myths around smoking.
Let's bring this back to the whole, is it an addiction or is it a habit? Well, because we have a couple of really good friends of this industry who would say a few things, wouldn't they?
Freddy Jacquin, good friend of ours, Melissa Tears, both excellent therapists, excellent hypnotists, and they both say that smoking is a habit, not an addiction. And so they treat it like a habit with their practice when they're in their practice with clients, and they get excellent results by treating it as a habit.
That's an important thing to keep in mind. If you can treat this as a habit and get great results, because the habit meaning it's a behavior, right?
The behavior
then
can be changed.
Treat the behavior, you'll get good results. So how many smokers go into convulsions, for example, if they were to take a 12-hour flight from Toronto to Sydney, Australia?
I can't get my addictive drug 12 hours. have the ambulance waiting at the other end.
I mean, that kind of contradicts the idea that it's an addiction, right?
Well, the same. All night long, people sleep who are smoking addicts, apparently, and they wake up. They don't wake up in the middle of the night, I need my drug. Right.
Yeah. When was the last time you heard of an armed smoker holding someone up on the street to steal their cigarette smoke?
Right. Well, if you compare this to other drugs where people resort to crime because they're desperate to get money to feed their addiction, it becomes a bit ridiculous.
Right. So that's why it makes so much sense in our minds to frame hypnosis for changing the behavior, i.e. the habit, rather than solving the addiction. It's a good reframe. In fact, that's what Freddie and Melissa both recommend, is reframe what's going on as a habit and fix the habit. So what's a good way of going about this? How do we approach breaking the habit? Right. Well, let's start with identifying maybe a new habit to install in place of the old habit. What do you typically do, or what have you done to replace the bad habit?
Years ago, I had a friend, John Charlotte, who was a hypnotist. When he worked with smokers, he'd tell them as the habit would be a sip of water instead. So they're staying hydrated. And he'd just say a sip. I'm not going to go drink a glass of water every time. And I like that. But then in my own practice in the 1990s, the replacement was taking a deep breath and consciously relaxing.
So every time you'd have a craving for a cigarette, that would be a trigger for you to do this new behavior instead.
Right. But then I made it even easier. And I would work with them hypnotically, but at the end of the session, what I would teach them was my 6-step tapping that comes from early EFT to faster EFT, Robert Smith's method, right to my own, which is an addition to the faster EFT. Have the person tapping on the top of their head, the center of their forehead, outer corner of the eye, under the eye, using the whole hand every time, then under the edge of the collarbone. This can be on either side of the body, squeezing their wrist, taking a deep breath and relaxing. Robert Smith adds the word peace there, which re-anchors it. That's a great thing to do. The only thing I've done is added the anxiety spot in Chinese medicine. When someone is well hydrated and focuses on their feeling, so the person comes in, I would not let them smoke any until they had the appointment with me, and this would be 2 p.m. So they're
you would
climbing
purposely
the
schedule it later in the afternoon.
But they could bring in a brand new pack, and they could smoke them if they wanted to in my office. No one ever did. So they come in with a brand new pack, put it on the table. I say,
"How really want it?"
Right. I say, "How bad do you want one out of 10 right now?" Probably a 7. How many of would you have had by this time? Oh, probably 6 or 7, whatever.
Yes, and compliant. Yeah.
I'd get them to take one out, put it in their hand, push the urge up, put it in their mouth, and until it was like a 9 or a 10. Now I say, feel that addiction. Feel it. This addiction is what they're calling it. Feel that sensation of how you want one. Now just feel it and say, let it go, or release that sensation, or let go of that sensation. Do the 6-step tapping and check again.
We'll put a video.
Yeah.
We'll link right here, right now, through the magic of the editing and
Yes.
YouTube. We'll put a link to the 6-step tapping tutorial that you used to teach how you cured your fibromyalgia, because it's the same process. That way you can click on that later. We'll put the link in the description as well, so you can watch it. So you don't have to interrupt the flow of this to learn the 6-step tapping.
So the simple thing is, by doing this, it would take their number down. I'd take their desire down to 0.
Before ever doing any hypnosis. So you're teaching the client, hey, you've got this craving right here, right now. Here's this other thing you do that stops the craving.
Right.
Ooh, okay, now
what? And they've experienced how it works. It stops the craving immediately. Now I say you can have one if you want one. I only say that when they've told me it's a 0. They say, I don't want one. I say, prove it to me. And then they typically break them and throw them in the garbage. Now the craving will come back. So what I do next is now I hypnotize them, put them in a deep trance, and give them the suggestion or direction that any time in the future, if the craving should come back, they won't wait. They will immediately do the tapping again and 0 it each time. So the craving might come back that night. They'll get rid of it. The craving might come back the next morning. Then it might not come back for 3 days. Then it may never come back. So the hypnosis is used to install the new behavior to make it last. So they're the ones who do it, and the old neural pathways become pruned and just dissolve.
Right. Now, when you're doing the hypnosis, of course, you'll also throw in lots of other stuff, perhaps ego strengthening suggestions, new identity statements, which is worth saying.
Right.
You're always going to state these new identity statements in the positive. So what would people typically make as a mistake?
I don't smoke anymore. I'm a non-smoker.
No. I don't smoke. Yeah, exactly.
You want it to be something like,
what are you instead?
Yeah,
right?
I'm someone who's breathing healthy.
Yes.
I breathe deeply when I need to. I feel strong.
I value my health.
I value my health.
Yeah.
I'm an overcomer. I breathe
fresh air.
I breathe fresh air.
Those kinds of things, right? So you're breaking a habit, you're installing a new behavior instead of the old one, and you're teaching them homework on how to bust those cravings until those neural pathways are pruned away, like we described.
And now the new habit is taken over. The new habit is breathing instead and feeling better.
Right.
Now the great thing is you can use this on other habits as well. Things like nail biting, where people bite their nails till they bleed, or binging on chocolate, or even So if you build solid foundational skills in hypnosis, you can help people, whether it be smoking, whether it be nail biting, binge eating, whatever the case may be, all of these habits or behaviors, things that people do, you can help them deconstruct, replace, prune those old neural pathways, replace them with a new habit that's much more empowering. Right. And you can do it all through foundational principles of hypnosis, never having to wonder, where is the script for nail biters versus where's the script for people who want to eat too much chocolate, Mike? No. Learn principles. Where's the script for?
Yeah. Where's the script for us to promote the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy? Because that's where you're going to learn these foundational skills. There's lots of great ways to learn hypnosis. Our Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy is the ultimate place to start because it costs absolutely nothing to get started. So check the link below the video here on YouTube. You'll find a link in the description, and you can check it out, and we'll see you on the inside of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. See you in our next video. Thanks again, and good night.